Tonight on NJTV News, your driver's license may no longer be enough to get you through airport security, but some argue bringing them up to TSA standards, easier to check against a national database, could violate your privacy. Fear of violating the privacy of patients by sharing health information could be one reason why people who overdose on prescription opioids almost always get their prescriptions renewed, half the time by the same doctor. And 45 minutes from Broadway, a dazzling display of Broadway costumes, beaded, bedazzled best. We'll show you all that glitters. Those stories and more next on NJTV News.
Major funding for NJTV News provided in part by Barnabas Health. Life is better healthy. Online at barnabashealth.org. The Star Ledger and NJ.com. And Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association. Live from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio at 2 Gateway Center in Newark, this is NJTV News with Mary Alice Williams.
Hello, thanks for joining us. New Jersey is one of 9 states whose driver's licenses failed to comply with new federal standards that require a more stringent proof of identity. Privacy experts and civil liberties organizations warn the new standards smack of a national identification card that would make your personal information easily shared on a national database. That they consider a violation of the right to privacy. David Cruz reports.
The Real ID law was passed back in 2005 on recommendation of the 9/11 Commission, ostensibly to make it harder for terrorists to get state driver's licenses. But it's taken a decade for the Department of Homeland Security to finally get around to enforcement. Now, residents in some states may no longer be able to use their driver's licenses or State Motor Vehicle Commission IDs to get into federal facilities or even to board domestic flights. Among other things, the law requires motor vehicle agencies to provide space for an applicant's full first name, take applicants' photos at the beginning of the process, and run facial recognition software. Right now, New Jersey's MVC is in compliance with just that last requirement. As for the others, we've been recognized for enhancing the security of our driver's licenses and IDs, and will continue to offer secure documents to New Jersey residents, said a spokesperson today. Compliance with the law would mean that your personal information, like Social Security numbers and copies of birth certificates, would be available to other motor vehicle agencies and thus thousands of their employees across the country. But some privacy advocates say Real ID is really just an end-around attempt by the federal government to create a national ID card.
All states would issue uniform cards, and back-end databases would share information about drivers and ID holders nationally. The Department of Homeland Security is trying to drive compliance by threatening to withhold acceptance of licenses from non-complying states at TSA when people go to travel. So that's a national ID, and it's being pushed by the federal government on the states.
Some states are balking at the requirements for this very reason. But New Jersey, we expect to work diligently to be in compliance by the October 2016 deadline, said the spokesperson. In addition to the potential privacy vulnerabilities, the law, in 10 years of non-enforcement, has already cost a lot of money, says the Cato Institute's Jim Harper.
Congress has spent almost $500 million over the last 10 years on various identification and biometric programs. That is money spent to track all of us. Now, some of them may have some security benefit, but on the whole, tracking law-abiding American citizens fails a cost-benefit analysis. That is, it spends more money than it delivers in security or other benefits.
TSA referred our questions to DHS, but DHS wouldn't comment. As for you, if you've got travel plans for the new year, you should be okay. But unless New Jersey changes course, you could ultimately be forced to share a lot more of your personal information if you want to fly or even visit your congressman's office, all in the name of national security. For NJTV News, I'm David Cruz.
This holiday season's hit gadgets not up to snuff. That tops tonight's Garden State Express. Our first stop, Lacey Township, where a charging hoverboard spontaneously combusted. It's the third in the tri-state area, but the Consumer Product Safety Commission says it's investigating 22 incidents of flameouts in 17 states. In the midst of a patent war, cheap knockoffs from China reportedly made it through the supply chain. Now airlines have banned them and Amazon stopped selling them. Fire officials suggest you don't leave the room when they're charging or just return them for a refund. Next to Paramus, where Macy's has pulled its Christmas special, a 10-piece Martha Stewart cooking set. Because when the pots and pans reach the right cooking temperature, the rivets fly off. 7 chefs reported flying rivets. 3 took a direct hit. Macy's sold 120,000, and in the face of the Consumer Product Safety Commission's recall, Macy's will refund your money. If you still want to use the cooking set, duck. Finally, Trenton, where the flying object is the newly elected official state butterfly. It's the black swallowtail, which took the honor because it spends its entire life cycle in the state, can be found in all 21 counties, and is attracted to suburban gardens. The black swallowtail joins the ranks of New Jersey's other official flora and fauna: the red oak, eastern goldfinch, violet, honeybee, horse, brook trout, blueberry, and knobbed whelk. The black swallowtail beat out worthy butterflies, including the tiger swallowtail, great spangled fritillary, and Hessel's hairstreak. Really. And that's our Garden State Express for Wednesday, December 30th. Something up in your town? Tip us off. Opioid addiction is a growing threat in New Jersey. A new national study of people who've survived an overdose indicates more than 90% continued to receive prescription opioids after the overdose. More than half got the prescription from the same doctor. Experts blame a fragmented healthcare system where there is no clear mechanism for emergency medical technicians, emergency room teams, and private physicians to share information. Michael Hill reports.
Opioid manufacturing and prescribing last year became a $9 billion industry. It's where profits meet pain pills and a major concern about overprescribing.
You really have to strongly consider who it is you offer an opiate to and who you don't.
Dr. Joe Contreras of Hackensack University Medical Center prescribes opiates to his patients with and without cancer.
In fact, I've had a patient with cancer pain who is overdosed, but in discussion we found that was accidental. We're much more careful.
A Boston Medical Center survey of 2,800 patients who had overdosed on opioids found 91% were still prescribed opioids, and many by the same doctor, and 7% overdosed again.
So we suspected there may be some continued prescribing, but we were shocked and alarmed at how frequent and high that continued prescribing rate was.
Dr. Mark LaRochelle led the study of non-cancer patients. He and others say it points to a need for better communication and information sharing because right now, if patients overdose, their doctor may not find out. The study hits at the crux of the issue. How are doctors supposed to know their patients have overdosed on opiates they prescribed?
If it were within my institution and within our network, I would absolutely find out about it. If not, I'd have to rely on the patients volunteering that information to me.
Isn't that a fallacy of the system, a flaw in the system?
It absolutely is.
The American Academy of Pain Management says legislation may hold an answer.
You know, around the country, we've all been working toward an electronic health record. But the trouble with those records is that they often don't interface or talk well to one another. We do have prescription monitoring services in 49 out of the 50 states that tell us when patients receive prescriptions for opioids. Unfortunately, those prescription monitoring services do not include information about overdose. And that's something at the American Academy of Pain Management that we're considering as a policy measure, is asking states to put that in place.
New Jersey launched its prescription monitoring program last year, and Dr. Contreras says it works well to determine doctor shopping and all that's prescribed to patients. He says going forward, the whole equation needs more informed consent for information sharing, doctor-patient communication, institution-to-institution communication, and monitoring. Another key component, says the Partnership for a Drug-Free New Jersey, educating doctors.
Well, I think that they're not informed because I think that for many years there was a misperception about the safety of these drugs. And I think we're learning more and more as the country and the state are now experiencing epidemic levels of abuse of opiates, that these are very dangerous drugs and they should be given out with information to patients about how addictive they can be.
2 bills to have doctors inform patients about the dangers of opioids both died in the legislature. So starting January 1st, the partnership is taking it upon itself to inform the public with a series of ads asking parents if they would give their children heroin and opioid for a broken arm or sports injury or root canal. Michael Hill, NJTV News.
The March of Dimes reports nearly 1 in 10 babies born in New Jersey this year were born too small, too soon. Doctors call them million-dollar babies because the health challenges they face will cost at least that over the course of their lifetimes. But doctors are learning to save even the tiniest premature babies. Brianna Venozzi reports from St. Peter's Hospital and the state's first Level 3 neonatal intensive care unit.
New mom Tiara Land still has a hard time believing her 2-month-old baby girl Phoenix is alive and thriving.
I was bleeding a lot and they didn't know if it was coming from the baby or if it was coming from me, so they said that they just want to take her out because they didn't want to lose me or her.
Phoenix was born prematurely at just 28 weeks. Her weight?
2 pounds, 11 ounces.
So the NICU at St. Peter's University Hospital in New Brunswick and many others around the country gives annual recognition to the struggle and miracle of premature babies.
In the United States, almost 500,000 children are born prematurely every year,
costing the healthcare system upwards of $26 billion a year. Dr. Mark Hyatt is the director of the unit. He says they've seen over 30,000 babies come through since it opened in 1978.
Some of these babies will come into the unit at just 23 or 24 weeks, and they'll stay for up to 3 months.
A lot of premature labor is started by infections or a combination of infections. There are non-specific things like stress, especially women who are working, that may be associated with premature birth.
Smoking and lack of access to prenatal care have also been known factors for preterm births.
They said that it's a possibility that, she's going to have complications with her eyesight. There's a possibility she'll have complications with her hearing. It was the scariest thing of my life.
That's why nurses provide continued education and support for families while they're in and once they're out.
Discharge planning, going home, parents need to learn how to feed their babies, and we spend a lot of time focusing on giving the parents the skills to do that.
Their whole expectation for the birth plan has really been destroyed. It's a different event than most women have imagined for themselves when they've had a baby. So there's a lot of stress involved.
It's the only NICU in the state with a live camera for each baby.
I put it right on my iPad and I got to watch everything they had to do with her, and it was awesome. When I got home and I still couldn't be here, I got to watch her here as well.
Now she's 6 pounds and ready to go home.
That's the reason why I named her Phoenix, because she just keeps, arising from everything when it seemed like she wasn't supposed to make it, and she did.
The happy ending that almost wasn't. In New Brunswick, I'm Brianna Venozzi, NJTV News.
Good news for Governor Christie in Iowa. The other candidates are taking aim at him. Jeb Bush in a campaign ad, and Donald Trump in a verbal fusillade that included lane closures and credit downgrades. Trump even downgraded Christie, saying he's acting like a little boy. Christie's withholding counterpunches, saying to Trump only, "Happy New Year, see you in New Hampshire," and telling a breakfast crowd at Ellie's Tea and Coffee in Muscatine, "America can trust me because New Jersey doesn't like me." That's a quote, holding up his record low job approval rating here as proof he can make tough decisions. The original Governor Christie conquered tough decisions too, which makes her a Jersey girl. For our ongoing series on the powerful women who call New Jersey home, I spoke with former Governor Christie Todd Whitman. You have quite a legacy. You were the first female governor of the state of New Jersey. What do you make of the fact that you are the only female governor in the state of New Jersey?
I only hope it wasn't because of my record. No, it's too bad. Women, I keep saying to people, look, the world wouldn't be perfect if it were run by women, but I'm not sure we could do a whole lot worse than the guys have done to date. And women do bring a different set of life experiences, of a way of priority setting, a way of discussing issues and coming to conclusions. And there's no one group that has all the answers. All white men, God bless them, but they don't have all the answers. And we need people at the decision-making table who bring these other experiences. Because
is their leadership style different?
It certainly has been from what I've seen. Now, of course, Millicent Fenwick, a very well-known Republican New Jersey woman, would tell you, as she used to say, and it's one of the few times I disagreed with her, that once women had been in power long enough, they'd start acting just like the men. I don't think so, because the reason I say that is I don't care how far we get. Women will always be considered the primary caregiver, whether it's for parents or children or significant others. The first person that people tend to go to when there's a problem is the woman. And so we have learned to prioritize things differently than the men. We understand that very few things are black or white. There's a lot of gray in most issues. And so we're more willing, I have found, more willing to compromise, more willing to move the ball forward, maybe not to get exactly what we wanted at the time we wanted it, but as long as we're making progress, that's important. And we're willing to go with that rather than lose the whole thing, and more so than some of our male compatriots.
And groups of women, even at the PTA level, talk to each other to solve problems.
Right. Well, most of the women that I have found who get into political office get there because there's an issue and a problem they want to solve. And they see this as a way to solving a problem, not about a title, not about perceived power or, what it's going to mean and how you're going to look. It's about getting something done. And it can be getting a crossing guard for the school or recycling in your town or some of the bigger issues that we face as a state and as a nation. But they're really getting into it to solve problems. And I think it's become so sort of commonplace for men to be in these positions of power that they look on it as a position of power rather than trying to solve an individual problem.
Is it tougher for women to get the financing that they need to run?
It traditionally has been. We don't have the same history, mostly because we didn't have the same discretionary income as our male compatriots for a long time. And there's still a gap in the pay between what women get and what men get. It's not anything like what it used to be.
But even with organizations like Emily's List, which raises money for female campaigns,
right,
it's still tougher for women to get money. And the wish list for the
Republicans. Yes, it is, because we're not used to writing the big checks. And we've got to understand that where $500 or $100 used to be good, you need $1,000 now to start to make a difference.
Are we also not as good at making the big ask?
No, I think we're very reluctant to make the big ask. I mean, yes, I agree with you. We are very reluctant to make the big ask. Again, we're just not as used to it, and it's not something that comes as easily and readily to us.
What was your greatest professional struggle?
Probably getting used to the fact that you can't make everybody happy, and that any decision that you make as a governor, any new program you introduce, there are going to be some people that are not going to be helped by it and might even be hurt. And you have to do what's in the best interest of the greatest number.
Is there something that's keeping women from running in the first place?
I think there are a host of things. It is one, there are not as many. So I believe that I think, first of all, if you look at the statistics on voting, we're much harder on women candidates than we are on men. We don't accept the same level of life experience as being meaningful as we do and for a male. And I think part of it is because there are just not as many of us in these positions of decision-making and power that it's very personal for us when a woman messes up.
Well, also in terms of campaigning, we're in a media talk fest that really subjects candidates to a different level of scrutiny.
Well, we're losing men candidates now, too, because of the nastiness of the campaigns, because of the way they're going. There are a lot of good people who are just saying, you know what? I'm going to try to change things some other way. It's one of the things that worries me a little bit about the future, because the latest polling that's been done on the millenniums shows, and I've been talking on a number of college campuses, and I find this to be true. They're very focused on making a difference. They really want to change things. They want to do good. They're not nearly as focused on making a big bucks. What they want is the kind of lifestyle. Quality of life is very important to them, but they don't want to have anything to do with politics. And you want to say, if you're going to make these changes and you want them to be lasting, you're going to have to be involved in the political system at some point.
Any last thing you'd like to say to the Jersey girls who are listening now and thinking and have stopped saying, I can do that?
Oh, they should never say that. I mean, especially if you're a Jersey girl. I mean, we're tough. You got to be tough in this state. Anyway, it's a great state with a huge amount of diversity. We really need them. What I say to people is, look, if you have two candidates with whom you are equally comfortable as far as their capabilities and where they are in issues, it's okay to pick the woman because she's a woman. One's a woman, one's a man. It's okay to pick the woman because she's a woman, because we need that diversity of life experience and problem solving, the different ways of problem solving. We need that at the table. Our problems today are too complex, too deep for any one group to have all the answers, and we need women there.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
The legendary costume designer Edith Head called what a costume designer does a cross between magic and camouflage. And there is magic to be found in the glittering details on display in Jersey City. Here's Maddie Orton with NJ Arts.
There's a shiny gem of an exhibit at Art House in Jersey City that cuts through the winter fog with a twinkle. All that glitters allows visitors to zoom in on the beadwork that makes costumes masterpieces.
I think there's an old saying, scenery sells seats.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think people take binoculars. I know I do.
Polly Isham-Kinney is a beading and embroidery designer currently working on Aladdin on Broadway. And James Crochet is the designer behind Leading Lady costumes. Between the two Jersey City residents, they have years of Broadway, TV, and fashion campaign experience. So when Crochet took on guest curating a costume exhibit at Art House, he knew who to call for an inside look at the glitz that makes the gowns.
We sat on her floor and dug through her samples and started to pull things out that either, things that she responded to or things that I responded to, things that we could remember what they were from.
Crochet complemented Kinney's samples with pieces from his company's collection, some that he built and some that he bought, like these iconic items from the original Broadway production of A Chorus Line.
A lot of the other costumes are on loan directly from the designers.
Heavy hitters like two-time Tony Award winner Greg Barnes. While you may have seen these costumes on Broadway, there's nothing like seeing them up close. Crochet remembers working on Beauty and the Beast.
There is so much beading detail in that show that working there, I was loving getting to work on it, but at the same time I was like, nobody's going to see this level of detail and this level of crazy. But seeing it on stage, you may not have been able to see the detail, but you were aware that there was something dimensional there.
And while the audience is a big part of the equation, Kinney's mentor used to remind her that other parties are involved.
The actress or actor saw it up close. The producer would see it up close. So you had to make sure that they felt they were getting their money's worth and that the actor or actress felt good about what they were wearing.
Then there's the matter of marketing.
The Jasmine wedding costume has to be spectacular because it'll be on the side of every bus in town. Victoria's Secret, this has to be perfect because they're filming it in HD TV.
All That Glitters illustrates various styles of beading and the process through which a design goes from sketch to sample to final product.
This is the pattern from that dress.
So this pattern here,
right,
is that dress?
Is that dress.
Interesting.
And Crochet and Kinney invite others to get in on the act.
Art House will host a beading and embroidery workshop on January 9th before the exhibit closes on the 10th. In Jersey City, I'm Maddie Orton, NJTV News.
From Broadway costumes to a budding Broadway star, a kid from Glen Rock has made it to the big time, debuting last night in the 5-time Tony-winning Broadway musical Fun Home. 9-year-old Alessandra Baldacchino has been one to watch since she did a star turn as Cosette in the highly acclaimed summer stage production of Les Miserables, across from our leading man, operatic tenor extraordinaire Philip Alonji, who is also executive producer of NJTV News. When she's not performing on Broadway, Alessandra's being prepped to mix our sound. Tomorrow on NJTV News, a look back at the events that framed 2015. I'm Mary Alice Williams. For all the men and women of NJTV News, Happy New Year tomorrow.
New Jersey manufacturers, auto insurance, and more for New Jersey Business and Industry Association members and their employees. PSE&G, serving customers, strengthening the business community, and investing in New Jersey's future. And the members of the New Jersey Education Association, making public schools great for every child.
Hi, I'm Ralph LaRosa.
Oh, and Elmo's Elmo.
And we're here to remind you how important it is for your family to have an emergency kit.
That's right, just in case.
I'm thinking about what to put in my family's emergency kit. Want to help me think?
Okay.
An emergency kit should have a flashlight and extra batteries.
Oh, flashlight? Oh, batteries?
And lots of water and canned food.
Oh, okay. Water? Oh, canned food?
Wow, Elmo, you really are a good thinker.
Thank you, Mr. Ralph.
Download Sesame Street's free Let's Get Ready app at your favorite app store today.
You think about insurance, you think about being on the phone and waiting, and usually when you need it, it's not a good time in your life. We are in Horizon Connect. It's the first retail center Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield has put out. People come here and they can't believe they're in an insurance company. It's beautiful. It's less intimidating. It just gives a different look to health insurance. It's the first place that you can come to and speak to a representative in person. This is proof positive that we care about our members.